Today I am going to a wild and untouched island on the rugged west coast of Scotland. The Isle of Jura is one of Scotland's last wildernesses. Home to a population of around 200 people and 6,000 deer, it's a place where human influence takes a back seat to the rhythms of the land. With 115 miles of coastline, lumpy fields of peat, golden eagles flying overhead, and one of the world's most dangerous whirlpools, the island has an aura of both breathtaking magnificence and unsettling solitude. Join me on this adventure as I explore Scotland's wild island. Jura is Scotland's 8th biggest island. However, it's one of the least densely populated islands in Scotland. The island is mountainous, bare, and largely infertile. There are extensive areas covered in bogs. One of the main draws for visitors to the Isle of Jura is the whisky distillery, deer stalking, trout fishing, and of course the landscape. The island has one shop and one pub, and the Old Norse name for Jura translates to Deer Island. It's also sometimes possible to see the northern lights from Jura. I started on my journey to the remote Scottish island of Jura by taking the Calmac ferry with my vehicle from Port Tascaig, a small settlement on Islay which has a hotel and a post office. The ferry ride from Islay to Jura is a quick 10-minute trip, a crossing that transports you into a different world. I'm on the 7:25 ferry to Jura. There's only me and 2 other tractors on the ferry and it's a really short crossing. Looks like we're almost there already. I just got my ticket and it was £21.80 return if I come back on the same day, and I was able to pay by card. Okay, time to get off. We've just arrived on Jura. I'm the first one that'll go off the ferry. We're off the ferry! The vehicle ferry docks at Phelan, situated on the southern tip of Jura. So I've just been driving a few minutes already and apparently there's an amazing amount of deer on this island and otters and seals, so I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for wildlife as I'm driving along the coastal road here just as I got off the ferry. From there, a picturesque 25-mile single-track road winds its way along the eastern edge of the island. So I just went outside and there are so many midges. So midges are a type of small fly that are smaller than a mosquito and they're incredibly annoying and they bite you, and basically they like to live in damp and kind of woodland and forested areas. And the best way to avoid them is to stay in windy places, so beside the coast usually. But this morning they're really bad and they've all just come into the van as I pulled up and stopped to look at the view. It's crazy. So the next stop is going to be Craighouse, which is the main town and where the majority of the people live on Jura. There's also a passenger ferry operating to Jura during the summer months, between Tayvalloch on the mainland to Craighouse. I've just made it to Craighouse, the biggest village on Jura, so I'm going to have a look around and see what there is here. Craighouse sits on the sheltered east coast of the island and is where many of the people on Jura live. It's also home to the Jura whisky distillery, which was founded in 1810. They use water from the paps of Jura mountains for making their whisky, and since I'm now a whisky convert after my time on Islay, I picked up a few samples to try out. Craighouse existed even before the distillery, but having it around helped keep the village alive when other settlements started dwindling after the mid-1800s. The church in Craighouse has some interesting old photos on display, and you can learn more about Jura's fascinating history. Although around 200 people currently live on the island, the population peaked at 1,312 back in 1831. The village shop, which has been running since the 1890s, is a recent community acquisition. It's the only store on the island and also houses the post office. I enjoyed a lovely walk around the village of Craighouse, the biggest and basically only village here on the Isle of Jura. The weather has really picked up now and it's extremely beautiful with the views over the rest of Jura and out to the sea here. In the centre of the town is the community shop, which was a community buyout a number of years ago. It's really well stocked and I bought a few things. They also take card in there, which is amazing. In the village they also have the whisky distillery and a rum distillery too. There's a craft shop, and if you want to have something to eat you can have something at the Jura Hotel or at the other restaurant. I think it's called Antlers. So I'm going to put some diesel in the car. I'm almost out to make sure I can get to the end of the island. And it looks like the price for diesel is 150p per litre and for petrol 155p per litre, which is quite good since we're on a remote island. I've arrived here at a place called Coran Beach, which is quite a large beach actually, and I've been driving from Craighouse towards here and I spotted the sign and came in and had a look. It's a really peaceful place. There's a few people out kayaking and you can see Craighouse in the distance. The whisky distillery is so iconic, you can see the big chimney sticking up in the distance. On the plaque over there it says that you can sometimes see otters here. It's really my goal to see an otter this year. I'd love to see an otter in the wild. It also mentions on the plaque that a long time ago this was the point where people got onto boats to immigrate to the United States of America, specifically North Carolina, and it was a great point because of the depth of the water to get onto the boats, which is incredible to think that people left their lives behind here on this island and got on a boat and headed off to the United States of America. It's hard to imagine it happened here. I just pulled in here at the side of the road because I spotted this incredible view. There are a few cars parked here, so perhaps it's the beginning of the hike for the Paps of Jura. So the Paps of Jura are 3 hills which are very prominent on Jura, and when it's a clear day you can see them. Wow, the scenery is really starting to get very spectacular now. The Paps of Jura are unbelievable, and because the weather is so clear today, there's no fog on them and you can see them so clearly. They're so beautiful! I met a family who had just come back from hiking and they were going to hike up one of the Paps of Jura, but they abandoned the hike after an hour because it was so boggy, and they showed me their socks and the bottom of their trousers up to the knee was all wet and they were like wringing out their socks with water. So yeah, it must be quite a boggy hike at the moment. Wow, that is such a fantastic view. As I drove a little further along the road, the impressive Paps of Jura came fully into view. The clear weather made them look absolutely stunning. These 3 hills on the island's western side measure 785 metres, 757 metres and 734 metres. They have steep sides and a unique cone-like shape that resembles breasts. The term Pap comes from an Old Norse word meaning breast. These hills are a prominent feature on the island's landscape and can be seen from quite a distance, including from the Isle of Skye and Northern Ireland on clear days. Wow, the views are just incredible, honestly. Like, the Paps of Jura are just fantastic. I can't stop looking at them. So there's been a few questions recently on some of my YouTube videos and also on Instagram asking me if Scotland has any dangerous animals, which I thought was a really interesting question. So when I was doing research about the Isle of Jura, I found out that there are a lot of deer that live here, which I already mentioned, but there are also a lot of adders living here. So adder is a type of snake which is found in Scotland and also in other parts of Europe as well. It's a venomous snake, but it's not so poisonous that it would kill a human. It does kill animals though, and when my dad was younger, his dog passed away after being bitten by an adder when out hill walking. I only saw an adder for the first time a few weeks ago actually, when I was hiking in southern Scotland, so they're not too common to see. If anyone has seen an adder before, please let me know. Another thing which I found out about Jura is there are a lot of ticks on this island. So a tick is a very small insect that can go onto your skin and then it will like suck your blood. So you have to remove it with some tweezers or a special piece of equipment that will remove ticks. And it's quite important to remove them if you do have them because they can cause disease if they're left for a long time. So I also found out that there are a lot of ticks on this island too. And to answer one person's question, no, there are no bears living in Scotland. This video was possible to film today thanks to Freeprints. If you haven't heard of Freeprints, they are a photo printing app and it's possible to print out your pictures for free. Yes, you heard me correctly, for free. The Freeprints app is really quick and easy to download and use, and you can just select the pictures that you want to print from the camera roll on your device. I used Freeprints to print out some pictures from my recent trip to Shetland. When I was there, I managed to see some puffins for the first time in my life and I took some amazing photos, which I love. So I decided to get them printed out. So the photos have just arrived and I am so excited to see how they've turned out. Wow, they look so good! I printed out 15 photos in 6x4 from my trip and these look incredible. They're so nice. Such nice memories to have from my trip. If you'd like to order some photos, Freeprints is offering for new UK customers 15 free 6x4 photos plus free postage. It's absolutely free. All you need to do is use the code Ruth711. I'll put the link below so you can check it out. I'm really enjoying driving along the road on Jura. The views are just spectacular, and even though I'm just driving and not doing much, I'm just having such a great time. I'm heading towards the north to the end of the road. Up there are a few more things to see, so let's keep going. I was really eager to catch a glimpse of Jura's deer population, considering there's around 6,000 on the island. As I continued my journey northward towards Inverlussa, I spotted my first deer of the day. Make sure you watch until the end of the video. You'll be amazed at the number of deer I encounter. There's a deer. I had heard of something interesting called Tea on the Beach at the northern end of the island. It's a simple setup, basically a horse box run by 6 local kids offering tea and cake on an honesty basis. I decided to head there and see if it was open. This is delicious. I carried on my journey to the remote north and decided to make a pit stop at the Lussa Gin Distillery. Their gin is crafted using 15 botanicals that are either grown or gathered on the island. Exploring the gin making process was fascinating, and getting a glimpse of the workshop with all the equipment was an added bonus. So I was just in the Lussa Gin Distillery and it was so interesting. It's amazing that they're making gin here on the island and using all the herbs and botanicals foraged from the island here. And I bought a little bottle to take away as my mum loves this gin, so a little present for her. I ventured even further north, reaching the end of the road. I was just parking up the car. Oh no, the wheel's all covered in cow poo. From this point, it is possible to continue on foot, and I was debating whether to do it or not, and I think I will. There is a notable site a little bit further along here called Barnhill, and it's a house, and it's the house where the author George Orwell wrote the novel 1984. You can't go inside the house, it is a private house and it's available to rent actually if you want to book it for a week, and you need to bring all your own supplies, and I think it's quite a basic setup in there. But there is a viewpoint where you can see the house in the distance. So I'm going to walk there and I want to see Barnhill where George Orwell wrote 1984. The author George Orwell lived at Barnhill farmhouse on and off between 1946 and 1949. He wrote his final novel 1984 while staying there. Okay, we're away guys. So I will look out for adders and deer and also some birds. I did see an eagle earlier when I was driving, but because I was driving it was difficult to get it on camera, but if I can see any eagles I'll try and get it on camera to show you. The peaceful surroundings allowed him to imagine a terrifying future for humanity in the year 1984. Reports say Orwell came to the island to escape his demanding journalism career and to recover from TB. He left Jura in January 1949 for treatment and didn't come back. Since Orwell's death in 1950, Barnhill has been of interest to many who know about his life and work. The cottage is still owned by the family that rented it to Orwell. So apparently George Orwell described this place as a very unget-atable place. I wonder if he was talking about the house or the Isle of Jura itself. I imagine he was probably talking about the house. Let's keep going. So I've been walking probably for about 30 minutes so far. There's incredible views over the sea and the hills here, and it's just like crazy. It's so like lonely. There's just no one around, not a single soul, not a single vehicle. It is so remote. Like I feel like I am the last person on this planet. Honestly, it's just so wild and so remote. It's just so nice that there's nobody here. So nice. Perfect place to write a book, in my opinion. I was just walking along and I met someone, which was really surprising. I thought I was out here on my own, and actually it was the person who baked the cakes this morning for the tea on the beach. So that was really cool. It's such a small island and everyone here is so friendly, which is really nice. Can you see the islands in the distance there? So this has been just over a 4-mile hike, I believe. And I mentioned earlier it's possible to rent the house and you have to bring your own supplies, but maybe you noticed in the kind of the hills here that there's no electricity cables. So there's a generator for electricity and a gas-powered fridge apparently inside the house, and it's very unchanged when you compare it to when George Orwell lived there. And it said that if he was to walk in the door, he'd recognise it immediately because it looks so similar. I think we've arrived. I think I've arrived. Oh my goodness. There it is. So there is Barnhill there behind me in the distance. It's actually a little bit different to what I expected. It's a much bigger property and it's very well kept. I don't know if you can see the garden there, but the grass is all mown, and then there's a kind of circular design in front of the house, which is really cool. So George Orwell lived here for 3 years and he rented the property. And while he was living here, he was battling tuberculosis or TB. Shortly after the 1984 book was published, he passed away. Could you live somewhere like this? Let me know in the comments. I think I might like it, but maybe not on my own. Maybe if I had some other people living there with me, I think it would be fun. But by myself, I don't know. So past Barnhill, and if you continue on, you can reach the viewpoint for Coryvrekkan, which are the 3rd largest whirlpools in the world. Coryvrekkan whirlpool, located 3 miles northwest of Barnhill, makes passage dangerous at certain states of the tide. It almost took George Orwell's life when his boat got sucked into it on the water with his son. They lost the boat and had to swim to a remote cove. It was 2 hours before Orwell and his son were rescued by a passing lobster fisherman. They are completely treacherous waters and it's possible to do a boat trip to go and see them. I think that's probably recommended because you can see them much closer. I've visited the 2nd largest whirlpools in the world, which are in Japan actually, and it was an amazing experience to go on the boat and see them. So if you have the chance and you're here, that might be a nice thing to do. And I believe the biggest whirlpools in the world are in Norway. I'm just driving back from the hike and I've come across a whole field full of deer. There's so many of them. There must be like 60 or something. Seems like they come out later in the day. Earlier on there wasn't that many. That's like 1% of the deer population on Jura. I've had a fantastic time exploring the Isle of Jura. The untamed and unspoiled landscape makes it an ideal place to escape from your usual routine. The standout moments for me were encountering deer and the incredible hike to Barnhill. If you have a chance, I definitely recommend paying this beautiful island a visit. I often share photos from my trips on Instagram, so feel free to have a look. Thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to see more of my adventures exploring Scotland, please subscribe to the channel. See you next time!